You make that sound like it's fancier than it actually is.
Yeah, it is a lot fancier than it actually is. I need one of those streamer buttons, like the programmable ones you can keep on your desk. Those always look cool. We're not high budget enough for that.
We waste all of our budget on knives. We have no time for fancy camera gear. Jesus.
What do you mean? I could easily pay for a better webcam if I didn't buy ridiculous bullshit knives I don't need.
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
I am not the proud owner of a two-son. I don't know what to tell you.
No one's the proud owner of a twosome. I almost got you on
that one. Earlier than I expected. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
What is a budget even? Thanks for joining us, Justin. And yeah, budgets. Man, we should have a whole episode about budgeting for this bullshit hobby because, goddamn.
I'm not giving any secrets away. You don't need
a second and a third mortgage.
Yeah, good times. Justin, thanks for joining us. Cheers and whatnot. You'll notice we are a man short. Apparently, the internet in the downtown area is completely down and has been all day. Paul has been stuck in the downtowns and so is not have any Wi-Fi or data to come join us this evening. Hopefully that'll get sorted out sooner rather than later. I mentioned he should bug the crap out of us in the comments because he might be streaming that. Although I don't know if he will be if he's not on the. Yeah.
Last comment I got from him was that YouTube also takes data. He's very close to his limit, apparently.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I see that now. I see that.
Yeah. Which, I mean, fair enough. But Paul, if and when you do watch this, screw you for ruining what was otherwise going to be a good evening. But
should have been. We're talking about fancy knife.
Way too fancy for this poor boy, but that's okay. We can talk about that.
Part of it's the price point, but you've dropped that much on silly knives, so
yes. Well, on two instances I can think of. But yeah, there's arguments to be made in favor and against that. Let's see.
And I have everything on the other side. It's just messing with me over here. I tell you, no swords behind me. I don't even have a giant mace to protect myself right now. It's a crying shame. It's just an empty wall. Sorry.
I was just going to say, it's absolute BS if you don't at least have a giant mace. Got a couple of swords back here, but
know how I'm going to arrange the new place, but it's just going to be like a goddamn armory behind me. Like it's...
I look forward to seeing it at least.
I don't know. There's a lot to work with.
Mm-hmm.
So
you'll have to develop some all new furniture for it.
I don't know about that, but yeah. What are you carrying tonight there, Joe?
Me?
Well, it's either that or we can do Paul because he's not here. Did he send you a daily carry pick? Let's put him under the microscope.
I was gonna say, I don't think he sent me anything.
I'll judge his picture and his
hard
choices.
As I'm sure he would say, hard to send stuff without data, but
yeah, he keeps on complaining about that. I tell you.
I mean, if I had to live without internet, I'd be very sad.
I'm sure I would get used to it pretty damn quick, but
I've been spoiled for far too long. I'm gonna be realistic about this. But yeah, for me today, 707.
I see.
In the spirit of knives that are probably more expensive than they should be, I figured I should carry something fun. Yeah, I mean, lately it's been back to the North Arm, but trying to make sure I give other knives some pocket time, so I don't feel like I've spent a bunch of money for no reason. I have to say, the performance of these 20 CV and this thin of blade stock is fantastic. It is just awesome.
Yeah, they tried to be slicier. I mean, they've had a couple offerings that, yeah, were not bad as far as thickness behind the edge and whatnot type of thing. So yeah, they can do it sometimes on occasion.
I'm okay with big beefy monsters, but it's just nice to see that they can do both. It's just they seem to be leaning further and further away from stuff like that, the super tanky stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Justin, daily carry. I mean, you could carry more than one thing. Okay. I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. So you can have a knife in your pocket at the same time. I'm just saying.
Lies.
So I was carrying a new-ish acquisition. Yeah. So I had it thrown in front of me, and I would have been a silly man not to pick it up. But I'm carrying the Spyderco S, and not the serrated version of an S, because that's just in the code and not in the name. Dick Richards, cheers. Thanks for joining us. So this thing is extra fancy.
Yeah, it sure is. This is probably, believe it or not, when I first saw the Spyderco Phoenix online many years ago, before I was anything close to a knife guy, this was one of the other models where I was like, ooh, that's cool. I want one of those. And then quickly decided, oh no, but that blade would fill up with crud. But
it's not a user. It's
that's
definitely.
just it. But as far as just a cool knife, yeah, this thing is very cool.
So they made two different variations of this knife, and I'm going to lead into this before we get into a stovepipe review, because yeah, spoiler alert, we're doing a stovepipe review. It's a new Spyderco, so I figured I'd carry a weird Spyderco because weird Spydercos. But this thing's 440C injected blade steel, so they injected into that pattern and then sharpen it and whatever. So
this wasn't laser jet, water jet, or laser cut.
No, injected into a spider web shaped blade. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
And the super weird thing about it is they had a plain edge and a serrated version. And the serrated version is actually called the Q, because strange. Yeah. And normally Spyderco likes to call things with a serration some sort of S model, but this was just called the S model, even though it's a plain edge. I don't know what to tell you.
It's a little strange. Their whole naming convention system, just strange.
Yeah. Weighs 2 ounces on the nose, and for the record, it's my first compression lock. So background weird applause things going on. I'm sure.
I hate that this is your first compression lock.
Do you own a compression lock? Do you own a PM2?
Just the smock.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I think that's
the cheaty one. Yeah.
The one that's not really. Yeah. Oh, I had it on hand. Where did you go?
So yeah, Paul's got a PM2, and
yeah.
So
I skipped over the PM2. I ended up with the full size militaries instead. I wonder why they never shifted or made a compression version. Oh well, a little weird.
Compression version of which? Sorry.
Oh, of the military.
Oh, they did. They called it the paramilitary.
No. Wrong.
How dare you, sir?
Military's handle is so much better than the PM2's, or even the original paramilitary's handle. Am I being picky? Yeah. It's okay.
And yeah, Ben carrying a new custom from Nigel the Smith. Love it. We were actually going to do a shout out to Nigel here for his new Shopify. Go over, check it out on Instagram. There's a link on his homepage. But yeah, hope he's doing well with the crafting and whatnot. So
Some very cool stuff going on there. That's for sure.
Number 2 will happen eventually, whether Paul's here or not. It's isn't that always the way? So
This is the way. Yeah.
hashtag unsubscribe. But yeah.
So
Yeah. We might as well dive into it.
yeah. This
Also, what is everyone else carrying? Just other than
say those things. Tell us these things. And we'll talk about them. We promise.
we might talk about them.
It's a pretty loose promise there.
Gonna talk about a Spyderco. Get on that train. Yeah.
So talk about a I don't know whether I'd call this not confrontational. What's the word I'm looking for here?
Controversial?
Controversial release. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
Why do you say it's controversial? I can't say it either. Jesus.
There's words that we can sometimes say. Honestly, I think it all boils down to the price, but we should also acknowledge that this is the one new release from Spyderco.
Oh, I see. Joe's getting all wagon in front of the cart thing going on here.
Probably. I don't know. I think we should get that out of the way before we get into talking about the knife itself, because spoiler alert, as far as my thoughts are concerned, it's not the worst knife in the world. It's actually kind of neat. But as far as where it lands in the price points, where it's the only thing available that's brand spanking new from Spyderco as of this year, as of last year, like, I don't know.
Well, you could get a Sprint Run Urban with Damasteel that's almost the same price. I mean, that's not a bad option. Come on. Jesus.
Look, I understand that Spyderco has a number of things going on. I get they're building up a new factory. Like, is it a new factory location, or they're just expanding their current USA factory?
Yeah. It's going to be Colorado Crescent, Spyderco Way, whatever type of, something. They're adding more streets that have names on them.
And this actually came up in conversation today with our other coworker there. But the idea that you can take a knife and swap out the materials and use the exact same patterns, it's cheaper to do that than it would be to make slight modifications or create an entire new product line. So I get why Spyderco is doing what they've been doing, but it really sucks when everybody else is expanding their product lineup, even if it's super slow and even if there's constant delays like with Benchmade. At least there's new stuff coming.
I was going to say expanding their lineup might be a stretch. Talks about expanding their lineup seems to be the theme for 2022. But I mean,
there's been rumors. There's been rumors.
People will make some new stuff eventually. Like it's so
yeah. So anyway, cart before the horse, like Dennis says. This thing has been really over scrutinized, I think, because of those two facts. But all other things being equal, unless you have anything to add to that, we could get right into rating this bad boy.
No, I think just some tech specs out of the way right off the bat type of thing, right? So for me, 4 mils thick on the blade, Jimmy, you're talking about a butcher knife, and then 2 3/4 inch blade is what you're looking at. Yeah. So 6 3/4 overall.
You sent me a really good comparison photo here. The obvious one would be with the Techno, but I think I want to show the Dragonfly first, mostly because the Dragonfly is a fairly known quantity in its size.
Well, it's the go-to. Yeah. It's the go-to for me.
But people know that, like, at most, it's barely a 4-finger grip for people with larger than average hands. This is not a big knife. The Stovepipe is not a big knife. Diminutive, I don't think it is. like Dennis said, 4 mil thick on the spine. It's it's chonky, but overall, this isn't going to take up a ton of depth into your pocket.
Yeah.
Width,
Who
though.
do you think you're trying to be? Like, an NPR? Seriously, it's
Ah, I love that. I love that stupid little thing.
a stupid knife. I don't even know where it is. It's
This
around.
stupid, sexy Benchmade. Um, yeah, let me throw up a picture of the closed profile. So this thing is like super wide in the pocket. Um, like I think that as far as carry profiles go, and maybe this is true of a lot of cleavery style blades. Yeah,
There it is.
there's the
There, there.
MPR. That thing's
Yeah,
cool as
yeah.
hell.
Yeah. Anyway, silly knives. Silly knives.
Yeah. But yeah, this thing is a chunk. And actually, if you wouldn't mind bringing up your MPR for a second to show off the clip again on so if you look at where that clip sits, if you are a right-handed person carrying that in your front pocket, most of that knife is going to be away from the seam, whereas the clip itself is going to be against the seam in your pocket. If you compare that to the way that uh, the stovepipe is set up here, you're going to have quite some distance between the seam of your pocket and where the knife handle actually starts. So this is going to carry weirdly. I've carried knives like this before. I didn't put this particular one into my pocket, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I've carried knives like this before, and it feels very foreign to me. I don't know if I would necessarily get used to it, but
Paul was saying it wasn't actually that bad as far as the in and out of the pocket for a milled titanium clip. Like
yeah,
that's the disclaimer is it's not a Benchmade deep carry. It's not a Spyderco wire clip. It's for a milled titanium clip. It's pretty decent. Shout out to Brian Mooney. I think a new gentleman joined us at the shop here over the last week or so. We were going to give a shout out to. So yeah, talking about this crazy asshole of a knife. Holy cow. Like it's so, but it's kind of weird. It's kind of cool. I got a shot of it in the sun, that first picture, to show off the curve of the titanium because they did a really nice job.
yeah.
Like Sleech Bowie level. Or I also have my Thug. That was also that nice, like rounded. Yeah.
That contoured titanium.
Mhm.
It's just a nice thing to do. Uh and I will say, while we're briefly touching that subject, the machining on this knife is very clean, and they did a really good job chamfering everything down and making sure there weren't really all that many hot spots, if any. Um, I didn't.
Touch the subject, Joe. Touch it.
Oh, I'm gonna touch it. I'm gonna touch it right there. Actually, right
Where did
there.
the subject touch you? Um,
Dark, dark.
anyway, knife review. You say knife review. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so nice curvature, but I also have a shot of the back end, and I'm gonna dive into it right now. That I got of in hand.
yeah, I'll pop that up right here. Yeah, there we go.
And what it like excels in with the curvature of the titanium, it makes up for by a whole bunch of sharp points on the back. Like Jesus Christ. I'm glad Fisk is here because if you think of Chavez was uncomfortable to grab, holy cow, this thing's got some places that you do not want to like wrap your fingers around.
So I will say, if I were to use this as a hard use knife, yeah, I'd get hot spotty pretty quick. But for the size of knife it is, it's not uncomfortable to hold, so long as you're willing to fall into the finger grooves it lines out for you. Um, and maybe that's because my hands are a little chunkier than yours, but in terms of width. But for me, holding that knife, it didn't feel quite so bad, except this area, the relief cut for the lock bar, that
Okay. Yeah,
area
yeah, yeah.
in particular feels short And
Well, it's
yeah,
it's thin too because it's the cutout. So when you wrap your hand around that area in particular, it's a little more jabby than the thicker titanium of say something like a Techno or something like that, right?
yeah. You know what would have been an easy fix for this? Just wouldn't have had to worry about it. If you had done what the Sabenza does and just had the cutout
Oh,
on the inside of the handle, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that in a full grip because there'd be no place for your finger to fall
it
into.
would still feel like a full slab or more so. You might feel it a little bit more,
Yeah,
but
yeah. At that point, you could only blame the geometry of the knife for being so horrible, as opposed to the cutout, right?
But I do
Um,
also find like the back end with that triple or that double point on the back, you can find a decent place for your pinky, but you can find a lot of not decent places for your pinky as well when you're gripping it and you're
yeah,
like, oh, no, no, oh, there, it needs to sit there type of thing, which is meh,
yeah,
a little fussy, but
a little bit. I I don't know. I mean, this knife, when I was really just giving her, I really felt like if I was just paying attention to the first two fingers on my thumb, it was actually, again, it was pretty okay. But you're right. Trying to find a place for your pinky and then be dedicated, okay, like, hey, it's sitting here. It wasn't ideal. This whole thing reeks of a design knife, and again, it's reflected in the price. Sure, that's part of it. Um,
well,
so
and the Build a Butcher design from what is the other than David Ridbaum, what is the company that he's all well known for? The
oh,
name I can't remember for the life of me. Someone in a chat probably will know, but something Armory.
I knew this at one point. That's really gonna bug me if no one
Yeah.
can tell us.
Anyway,
Yeah, tip of my tongue kind of thing.
we're terrible people, but deal with it. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
um, did we throw up the picture of the comparison of the Techno?
not yet. I can do that right now though.
Because I think anyone who has any sort of following on titanium, Spyderco's, whatever type of thing in the smaller category, I think a lot of questions are coming up is how does it compare with probably with the Techno, right?
Yeah.
So, well, other than the Sharpies, as far as the points go, it's actually a little bit longer. You can find more of a spot to put your pinky on the Build a Butcher. I find it is actually a better four finger grip as far as a full grip when you find the good grip for it, right? So,
Fair.
but yeah, it is actually a hint larger. People, I don't know, I think have been thinking that this knife is going to be like a chunky, like a shaman chunky or something like that type of thing, and it's not, but it's not techno stubby either. I don't know. It's a weird category to put it into.
Putting this knife into any one particular category is kind of difficult right now. Like, it's I almost want to rank it. It's weird because you do have a lot of contouring on the handle, to where the majority of your palm is going to sit. Towards the pivot, it gets nice and flat. So if you're going into actually, this knife in a pinch grip isn't all that bad. If I were to be using it to just like, uh, this is about the same size, sure. Like put my thumb along the side and just gently kind of cut along, holding like this. Pretty comfortable, surprisingly.
Well, and
But
even your thumb in that back area where the cutout from the blade meets the cutout on the handle, which is a nice symmetry, by the way. I enjoy the aesthetics of this, like some of the titanium on this knife, even though I do think that this knife is not an attractive knife. Like,
no, and if we're talking about the cutaway, uh, it makes that stock kind of thin. Um, and I want to say Shabazz talked about this in his
you
review
don't
as
even
well,
feel
but
the fact that it's 4 mils thick.
no, because it feels quite a bit thinner for sure, closer to 2.5. Not that I've measured it with calipers or anything. I haven't. Uh, but I kind of really wish they had stuck to the full, either the full or just barely milled away the sides to give you that texture difference, like that shape. because it is actually less comfortable to have your thumb along that section before the big curve than it is to actually just put it in the curve itself. But at that point, your hand is so far up close to the blade, it feels a little awkward.
For some people,
Yeah. Okay, for
I
me,
found that it's kind of like similar with the Yojimbo too. That yeah, if you've got a long enough thumb, you can rest it into that nook just like you can with the Yojimbo, and it gets kind of comfortable.
kinda comfortable, but yeah. This isn't a knife that was designed with comfort in mind. Let's just say that this is
And it's just me, and it's just an aesthetic thing, and I've been trying to put my like finger on what it looks like, and it's kind of got a rhino-ish kind of vibe to it, but I'm like, there's other knives out there that definitely have more of a rhino vibe. This thing looks like a freight train. And if you look at the like chimney stack on the front of it and the front sled on it, it's
now that you've said it, yeah, it doesn't help that it's got that big old pivot wheel on the side of it too.
straight up. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So
freight train, huh?
As soon as I saw it, I was just like, yeah, it just reminds me of a big old freight train.
Now, I wouldn't abuse this thing in the same way you might abuse a freight train. It's got a pretty decent hollow grind on it. It's actually, if not comparable to, then actually thinner than my smock. I actually brought this in today to try and get a measurement between it and the, and I forgot my calipers. But it is actually like, it's got to be less than like a 1/4 mil difference, but it is actually very slightly thinner. At least it feels like to me than this stovepipe here. Or sorry, the stovepipe is thinner than the smock. So if you're looking for a really decently hollow ground knife, sure, this is it. And personally, I kind of really like the aesthetic of having a flat above a hollow. I don't know why, but I don't know. I dig it. I like the way Spyderco does it. Maybe that's just bias. Maybe that's just leftover bias from the Spyderco Phoenix, because it does a very similar thing as well. And it's good that it has a hollow grind, because again, this thing is 4 millimeters thick. So if you were going to use it for any kind of cutting, this is about the best way to get decent edge geometry on it.
They also ignored lefties, as we can see in this picture. So screw you guys.
That was the next thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, so for this price,
and wait, Kingdom Armory?
That sounds correct.
I'm swinging it out there. I'm taking a pinata with a blindfold and hoping there's candy in it. Like it's.
I'm just looking this up. Yeah, absolutely, Kingdom Armory. Yeah, that's it.
All right.
Super cool.
Sorry, continue on. Derailed from 15 minutes ago here. So.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah. Lefty clip. That's right. I was like, what the fuck were we talking about?
Snubbing me in particular. They're looking right at Dennis Fibers and going, screw you, we're not doing it.
Fuck that guy. That's basically what it comes across as.
Well, he's not the only person that says that, so.
Well, that's unfortunate. So I have a couple pictures of the clip side here, because I figured that would come up in conversation. So not only did they decide to do 2 different size screws, okay, whatever. This is actually the first time I think I've seen that, where you have to use a T6 or a T8 and then the opposite in order to get this pocket. It's just super weird. I don't know why. Maybe this is something similar to what the custom was like, but aesthetically the clip doesn't look bad. It's super thin, which we'll talk about again in a minute, but looking at how shallow the relief cut is on the back end for this clip to sit, you think they could have cut, they couldn't have cut a lefty plate if they wanted to keep the ergonomics the same on the reverse?
They could have. Now, the other thing I'm thinking is that larger T8 screw, it goes all the way through and connects with the other side. It's a whole body screw as well as the clip screw. Because if you look over on the other side, I believe, if you look over on the other side of that knife, there's also a T8, and the T8 lines up with all the body screws. So I think in Spider, and I've heard more than one reviewer pointed out that it's super weird that they would do that. But I think they were matching body screws, because now both of your body screws are T8, and the one extra screw to reinforce the clip is a T6.
Be that as it may. And here, let's get some actual lighting there.
Oh, so Spyderco totally just ripped off Voking.
No. That what I'm saying is that goes all the way through. There's only one screw. I'm not saying it's difficult for, a huge company like Spyderco to be able to figure out, but come on, really? Really?
And that would have been nice if it had been just like 2 screw construction. Would have been super cool.
Yeah, no shit. You don't see that very often in the knife world for a variety of reasons, for sure, but it's just weird. And at the very least, if you had to use 2 screws to keep it just use 2 of the larger diameter screws.
Oh, no. No. That would get in the way of that fancy machining cutout that dips in there that you had to pay an extra $100 for this knife for. Fuck.
Yeah, it's a little brutal. It's a little bit brutal.
That little spot right there. That's what. That little spot.
You know what you paid extra for? I have a close-up on something here that when I noticed it, I was like, really? Like, all this extra effort. Anyway. That's not as good of a picture. There's just this tiny little area where they ended up chamfering. Yeah, you can kind of see it here. In the middle of that cut. That goes across from the spider hole into the spine of the knife. Do you see those 2 little chamfer sections on either side of the lock bar? They just kissed it just a little bit, but only right there. They still did the chamfering on the corner on either end of that ridge. Sure, they absolutely did. So they do that. But they don't make sure that the handle doesn't bite you when you hold it. With more than 3 fingers.
Of course. Yeah.
Holy shit, guys.
This was machining refinement. The other one is design aesthetic.
Yeah.
Get your shit straight. Come on, Joe. Come on.
It still bugs me. And yes, this thing is very well machined, but holy God.
So the other thing that also remember with this picture in mind is that is a pivot color, and it's the new trend to charge $50 more for something with pivot colors, but at least Benchmade poorly anodizes theirs. Come on. I mean, maybe it's decent. It's not a Kershaw anodizing at least, but still.
Well, I think Kershaw anodizings or anodized colors are better. I think they're a little bit more poppy, but I honestly don't know about durability.
I think crisper color, but I wonder about durability.
Yeah, that's kind of my question here.
And even Benchmade, I noticed on my bailout, just because I've been messing around with the bailout, and I've got a couple spots that are starting to fade from just in and out of the pocket on the diamond texture. So,
yeah, that tracks. So this also does act as the over travel stop, which is nice that they include it. What they don't include is a lock bar insert. So this is just bare titanium against steel. Which no doubt that's the way the customs are done as well, but you're paying $600. You figure you might want to engineer a little bit more longevity into your. And yeah, I know that before Fitz can say anything, the 21s or the 20, the 21s, are just bare titanium. Well, I was gonna say 22s. I'm like, wait, it's 2022. Like, wait, why would that matter?
22s.
I'm tired, guys.
He just made Fisk's brain explode.
Oh, probably.
No, not 22.
But this guy has worn in significantly since I've got it. So just putting that out there. So I don't know. I'm not really that impressed that they neglected to put something like that in. Yes, this is probably going to be a collector's knife more than a user's, but I don't know. At $600, I feel like the tool should be as long lasting as you can make it. Especially when Spyderco's done lock bar inserts before and have done perfectly fine jobs with them.
Yeah, but they're doing a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't, like, especially in their titanium lineup right now, they have a whole bunch of stuff that does not have inserts, right? So,
I suppose this then becomes more of a complaint against Spyderco as a whole in the titanium lineup, as opposed to
yeah.
I just don't like this trend. I don't like seeing it here. I don't like seeing it for a $600 price point. I just don't.
Yeah, and 600 is straight off their website, even though that's pretty much roughly what you're paying CAD prices, Polar Bearino dollars. Yeah,
Yeah.
at that price. So yeah, and Dick Richards has a point. Rather buy a Medford, especially in this day and age. I've played with a couple modern Medfords that, yeah, not too shabby, not too shabby.
Yeah.
I don't know what else I had on this sumbitch.
I got a picture of how thin this clip is.
Oh yeah, if you remember anything, Paul was going to dabble on that, on how thin the clip was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I specifically got pictures of it. To get you know what? To give you a comparison, I got a picture here next to my Smocks clip. That is the sheet clip from the Smock next to the Stovepipes clip.
And also a nice comparison on the hollow grinds too, while we're at it,
Mm.
because we were talking about that. So just because you can see the stovepipes hollow pretty nicely there with that. Yeah. So, but yes, clip. Yeah, God, that Smock. Do something about that clip, will you? Just like order something MXG-ish.
But I like how it feels in the hand. I think if you
It's
make it deep parry, it's just not going to be as nice and
terrible. It's terrible.
like it doesn't look great. It doesn't look great hanging out of your pocket like that. But still, yeah. Okay, if I could get a wire clip for this thing, I'd upgrade in a second. Absolutely.
It's a Spyderco. It's supposed to feel comfortable in hands. Now back to the stovepipe review.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Yeah.
That's yeah. So kind of funny. But yeah, overall, I don't know. This thing's a lot of dollary dues for what you're getting. If you want one of the customs and you can't get it, next best thing type of thing. This falls into a Peter Rosante Nirvana Paisan kind of in that same category where you've got this niche crowd following, whether big or small. Oh yeah, look at that in hand picture. That was actually kind of along the same lines as the Techno, being that it kind of actually does give you a decent 4-finger grip. You can see where my pinky is already struggling, but the other 3 fingers actually land really nicely into finger groove 1, 2, 3. It's the 4 that kind of kicks you in the butt. But
and I was pretty rough on it, but it's not like you're holding a bag of broken glass. But it's not ideal. It's not what Spyderco's known for, like you were saying a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, it's not that Rook monstrosity that you own. So, I mean, there's...
Yeah, I've actually hurt my thumb badly on that thing trying to flick it open over the last couple of weeks. I'm like, you know what? That's enough. But
I think this is also going to be something funky and weird, like the Nirvana, like the Techno 2, where you pull it out and guys are going like, oh, that's funky, what are you carrying, type of thing, right? So,
and I don't think this is where Spyderco is leaning, but it feels like they're edging their way into this position where they mass produce a crap ton of different variants of models that they've made forever, and then they're going to pump out stuff on the high end that's going to be production versions of customs. And it's those two markets that I think it feels like that's what they're doing almost exclusively now, which isn't super great because Spyderco, it's always nice to see new designs from them at a more affordable price point. And I think that's the part that really sucks about all this is, sure, it's another super cool high-end Spyderco that likely is only going to be made for a year, maybe 2 years, all things considered.
Yeah, but I mean, throw up an ethnic series that's in the 250 to 400 realm. Throw up like, a couple original design type of attitude and not just a repeat, because this is the first original design that you've been put out in damn near 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's already outpriced most people's knife budget, regardless of how
Yeah,
terrible the knife budget is that you may have. Yeah. So
it becomes difficult when you're looking at what else is on the market for that kind of money. Like, yeah, it's not Spyderco, but you can get best techs for that price. You
I
can get
mean,
best techs with that are integral with M390 and like comparable materials for that price. Uh,
you can still get a 21 for that price if you're searching, you know.
yeah, yeah. If you don't mind it a little bit used, maybe. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, oh yeah, and also dabble on action flickability. This thing,
Oh,
because of the big 4 mil thick blade, super fun action. No videos of us playing with it, but yeah, Jimmy, it snaps open real nice. So yeah.
yeah. That was the one thing I found that made me smile about this knife was just reverse flicking it open and being like, okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
it does that. It certainly has a visual and a kinetic like wow factor to it. It in
It
that way,
swing it swings. It swings nice. Like it's
eh,
yeah. So
nice swing there. Yeah.
that's a
Um,
fine looking swing you got there.
for those curious, here's the picture of the lockup. There really is no insert there. I'm just going through my pictures to see if there's anything else to talk about. Oh, the backspacer. That was something that people were talking about that was like, oh, I don't know if I like that. I don't think it's super great the way it was done. I don't know. I didn't bug me, really. It felt fine in the hand. Visually,
Um,
it kind of fits with the rest of the like the sub-step nature of this whole thing.
do you have a picture? There we go.
Yeah.
And it's just titanium. Oh yeah, and I saw a disassembly where it was just posts. Now it's all coming back to me. Yeah, no, screw that. I like it. It's exactly what goes with the flow of this knife. Like as far as this backspacer goes, and even the disassembly when you look at it, and you just see the double posts holding the whole thing together, and you're like, yeah, that's pretty much what you expect from this knife to be, right? So
Yeah. Flush backspacers are nice, but I don't know. I see that with lockbacks a little bit more, you know,
yeah.
and with
And
the
you're
way that
never going to feel how uncomfortable this stepping is when the bottom half of that knife is like a thorn bush. Like it's.
yeah, it's a weird knife to hold. Like if you get the
Pick a
chance,
spiky spot. Just, yeah, yeah. So.
yeah, it's weird. Maybe someone out there has like the magically perfect hands that like you hold this thing and it's like, man, this is just made for me. And for you, you might consider buying it just on how comfortable it is for you. But I haven't talked to anybody yet or heard from anybody yet where it's like who thought that way. Everyone's at least, yeah, it's great in this grip. Or if I hold it like this, as opposed to just like a Riverstone, right?
Yeah. And I kind of dabbled on like searching for a place. And you can find a place with the Pinky, but you're searching. So, yeah, for sure. I am going to rate this knife. Hmm, I'm going to go with 16 butchered chickens. They're processed, they're vacuum sealed, they're in the freezer, they're labeled and dated. And the reason I go with 16 is I'm guessing that's probably how many I could get through before I notice that this blade is starting to slow down, or it's so gross on the inside from chicken guts, you got to clean it up, one or the other. So there you have it.
I mean, you got the Bill the Butcher pun in there and everything, and I don't know how to follow that up, man.
Well, I didn't butcher a bald eagle. Like I stayed away. I even used like domestic farm animals in the whole 9 yards. It was quite civil of me. So
I think I think this knife is well suited to replace any Sabenza out there. I think anyone who would prefer Sabenza over this is crazy. So therefore, this has to get the highest of marks. Uh, a skinned cat, and you don't know which way it happened because there's so many different ways.
mhm, mhm.
I've got weird feelings about this knife, man.
CPM, why do people like this knife so much? I'm gonna have to go with the like wow factor again. The conversation for topic. It's gonna turn heads when you swing this open, and it swings. Like I said, it's a bit of a party animal. Likes to swing. So
Okay, I wasn't gonna bring it up only because it is such a radically different knife from this thing in most aspects. What other titanium frame lock does Spyderco still make? Uh, the Subvert. That's what it was. Uh,
oh yeah.
don't know if you got it nearby, but now the Subvert
Uh,
again, bit of a radically different design. It's a recurved, crazy bellied, big screw off knife, and yeah, I really like that thing. I really, really, really like that thing.
yeah, she's speaking of swing. Yeah, yeah. This thing.
It's a blade steel on that thing again. Remind me. Is it S30?
S30, good old overpriced S30, baby.
What do you mean S30B is not outdated yet? So,
It's a completely legitimate steel. Good to go, as
that's
wrong reviewers call it. Anyway.
brutal. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like if you're okay with S35VN, you should be more than happy with S30. But the reason why I bring up that knife in comparison to this one is there are a lot of parallels. They're both custom knives that were created in that Spyderco took, made into production versions. Made them not prohibitively expensive, but pretty goddamn expensive for what they were. Smack dab full of titanium, and they allowed that to justify the price. And I feel certain ways about that Subvert, and I don't feel that way at all about the Stovepipe here. But I feel like they exist in the same plane. Like, objectively speaking, they fulfill similar niches. They're there because you like the design. The reason why people like that, bad taste. It's that's all it is. It's my bad.
This one in particular, or the Subvert?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I love recurve blades visually. I think they're super cool. Sharpening them is kind of annoying, but not the end of the world. But they're not that much more useful than a good utility minded edge like what you're gonna get here on the Stovepipe. So that's why I think this knife is controversial. It's because it exists in this weird space. But at the same time, you know what else was taken from a custom design made into a more attainable production version? The Smock. And that thing
Yeah.
wasn't bloody expensive. So
Wasn't?
I don't know what it's going for now, but it's around 250 Canadian.
It
So,
was still
200.
like, you look at a PM2 pricing, and they gussied up some peel ply carbon fiber and put a button on the side and charged an extra $75 for it.
Well, that extra $75 has to go to Mr. Smock, don't you know?
Mr. Smock. When they're this big, they call you Mr. Smock. Which is totally the wrong name, so good for you. It's yeah.
Isn't it Kevin Smock? Pretty sure
you officially probably do know more than me, but yeah.
Oh. It's like,
so yeah. I
anyway.
don't know. Pricey knife.
Yeah. Hard to get excited about a design you don't really care for, and when that's the only real redeeming feature at that price point, it's yeah, it kind of is what it is.
They still beat every other production company that's a higher end one for a 2022 model ready to go, at least for this year. And I'll also give them credit, unlike the Smock, for taking 2 years to get that. They announced this thing and it was boom, on the nose. Let's go. Let's do this. Here's a bunch. Even though Canada had to wait an extra 6 to 8 weeks to get theirs, which I don't know. Anyway.
There's something about that there.
Yeah, there was some divvying up going on there that I'm not sure is going on. But either way, yeah, we got them now, and it still beat Redoubt with the plastic handle in D2 from Benchmade on that market. So, good for you guys.
What do you mean plastic is difficult to cast? No.
It's Versaflex. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a squishy plastic. Get it right.
Gerber had it first. That's all I'm gonna
Uh,
say.
I don't know. Are you talking about the Gator grip? That's just rubber. Like
I was gonna say that's something
melted
else.
my bike tires down and put it on the end of a machete handle. And don't get me wrong,
Uh,
they're comfy. Beat up until it falls off because it's soft rubber. But anyway. Examinator, thanks for joining us. Cheers, man. Cheers.
hey. Oh, I did promise we would talk about people's carries. I think we've pretty much said all we were gonna say about the stovepipe at this point, unless you got any other observations to add last minute.
No, I think I am pretty much good on that bad boy. Enthusiasm is less than a 7.
It sure is. I'm getting real tired of feeling this way about my favorite goddamn knife company.
Mm-hmm. And they still put out a good product, like as far as fit and finish, as far as if you like this knife, everything about it, Jimmy. Like, yeah, it's hard to find something machining wise like jimping that's been left out, or the other examples that we've looked at over the past 4 weeks or 5 weeks. You can't find those flaws on this thing. Like it's pretty damn crisp.
Yeah, execution is just fantastic, and it's good to see at that price level. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, you got some other little small topic, something. We won't last too long because apparently Paul is still having a rough go of it, hasn't been able to join us. For anyone who has joined us in the second half here, Paul's in the downtownish area of Calgary, and all of the downtown core has been shut down as far as Wi-Fi and internet goes. So rough times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah. I only had one small thing, and it's a question to you actually, because I've been horrible at keeping up on it on my own. So I noticed the Weekender on Benchmade's website
Okay, go
is
on.
listed as coming soon. I could have sworn there was a countdown timer for the Weekender at one point.
Probably. There was a lot of things that happened in the month of February that we're all kind of wondering about.
Yeah. Benchmade. Yeah, this is actually one of the knives that they're coming out with that I'm actually kind of interested in. Like,
and Dick Richards, yes, it's been down all today. It's the downtown core has been out of service the entire day. Anyway, Paul or Joe, sorry, continue on.
Yeah, it's just I can't help but wonder what the delays are exactly. This is sort of a tie-in with the whole controversial knife maker things not being made in the States controversy talk that we had 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at this point. So learning that within, I think it's the FTC's guidelines for being for there to be a claim of USA made, there has to be certain parameters met. And on the FTC's website, they actually list inconsequential, non-essential components as being not regulated. So if somebody was building barbecues, and I think it was barbecues they use as an example, the piping, if the piping came in from Mexico or from Germany, it doesn't matter. It's not considered an essential, like a major consequential part of the overall build of the product, so it doesn't factor into a USA made claim. In the same way, I have to wonder, does Benchmade get their screws made in the States? Could it be as simple as they just don't have the hardware to assemble their knives?
I think in that 3-part video, I think they did actually go through parts of where they were turning their own screws and stuff.
Really?
I think there is a 3-part video. I can't remember if it's Shabazz that put it out or someone else. And there was a 3-part walkthrough video of Benchmade's factory. And yes, at least they had several machines that I believe were doing hardware. So
Okay, fair enough. Well, there goes that theory. But
potentially, I'm not 100% sure. It's probably been 5-ish years that I've
right.
saw that video, and it's a vague memory, ghost in the wind type of attitude. But yeah,
I just wonder what the possible holdup could be. That's really what it comes down to for me.
Yeah, who knows? Well, I mean, they revamped everything, right? Like I said, a lot of things happened in the month of February where all of a sudden, like this one, speaking of the, what you're dabbling on right now, the Anonymous.
Yeah.
With 11 days left. Yeah.
11 days, 21 hours.
Let's see if that gets down to 3 days before it goes to coming soon. So, well,
it's not like they haven't done those rug pulls before. So, I mean,
that's what they did on the readout. It literally got down to like 3 days, and then they were like, no, we take it back. What were we thinking? That's ridiculous.
The readout, speaking of, it still just says coming soon on that thing.
Yeah. And the immunity just says nothing because they don't want you to know about it.
It's not even listed on the website anymore, I don't think.
Doesn't exist. So that's good to see.
Oh, the Claymore is available. That's super cool.
Okay, so that's the I don't know if Paul and I were talking about that or not, but last year when they came out with the Claymore, they only did a half serrated version. So this year they released a plain edge and pretended like it was a new model. And so it came out instead of the readout.
It's got a different SKU, god damn it. It's a different
okay, I take it back. I gave Spyderco credit for coming out with 2022 models. Benchmade
doesn't count.
Through a freaking ground ball
brutal.
Got on to first base.
Man. So y'all are willing to pay $230 for a plastic handled auto, hey?
Does it have D2? I think it does.
It's CPM D2.
Yeah. So there's your readout right there.
Yeah. So
it's called a Claymore.
It's called a Claymore, and it's an automatic. Yeah. The readout is still $180 American as well. Okay, so I guess this could be its own small thing, but D2 for a long time has kind of been in this weird place in the knife world where for a little while, like when I was just getting into knives at that time, you would see it occasionally in things like Benchmade would use it, the Spyderco would use it on sprint runs. But other than that, it seemed to be mostly custom guns. Now it's different variations of it have saturated the market in all kinds of different fun ways. Like this mod, like that monstrosity. Has it gotten to the point where people are not really they're not really caring about D2 anymore? Like I almost hesitate to ask this question because if we look at the readout and we look at the Claymore, they're both using D2.
Yeah, but the problem is that everyone's using D2 now. So unless you're like willing to actually look at the difference between CPM and Chinese and mass produced and this, that, and German and whatever type of D2s.
Yeah.
You can get a Penguin for $50, right? So
yeah, you sure can.
Shout out Penguin. So
Get Fist to resubscribe just so he can unsubscribe.
I'm pretty sure there's actually a hashtag that I found called Penguin Takeover, and it's from some like child kids movie. But the knife community stole it, and now it's a whole bunch of pocket knives. But if you go back far enough, it was all some Frozen reference or something. I don't even know.
That's hilarious. Oh man. So like, I don't know. In your opinion, is D2 steel a still a good steel? Good in terms
Hmm.
of you can use it, it will perform, you can take care of it. It's not unreasonable to do different tasks with because in my mileage, I've had nothing but good experiences with D2, and I feel like I may be an outlier given the amount of people who just do not, they're not excited about it. They just, in fact, they seem like, oh, D2, like really?
And even Benchmade's the CPM. Like I've got both the mini and the full sized H&K. And yeah, super happy with their D2. Far outperforms any of the Chinese D2s that I have. Definitely. Like,
Mhm.
so but yeah, that's the tough one. I think Benchmade should be on the cusp of the next tool steel to take over because D2 is going to be harder and harder to market as a higher end steel. So just because of where we're going in the knife world, Benchmade's gonna have to retire it eventually to keep up with demand. And a 3V or a M4 or whatever is going to be the new D2 for Benchmade because then they've got crew wares or whatever else following up in the
I
footsteps.
I agree with that idea in terms of advancement. That it makes sense from a business perspective if you put it out like that. But we're getting to the point where if you get much more complicated than D2 tool steel, you start to get into this region where things become, I won't say difficult to sharpen, but definitely harder to sharpen, where the average person is going to notice a significant change in the sharpening experience. And like it or not, that's a huge part of having a knife is having to eventually sharpen the damn thing. Um, so I don't know. I feel like if they move to steels that are much more wear resistant than D2 for sort of a quote unquote entry level, they might make it so that it's too difficult for other people to keep up, unless unless sharpening equipment like specialized sharpening equipment becomes much more mainstream. Which with Worksharp, I suppose it has happened to some
I was
extent.
going to say, and they're starting to, and especially with them reaching into the big stores with, you know, Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's. I wouldn't be surprised if the Walmarts are starting to get Worksharp products, at least down in the States more so. So,
Probably.
yeah, as things become more and more available, other than a Lansky system, to make things decently sharp at a reasonable level, then yeah, I think they are going to push that much farther where yeah, you don't have to worry about, man, this S30 is so tough I can't put an edge on it, and you're like, no, just buy a decent blade geometry and not a pig, type of a piece of steel.
Yeah.
I don't care if you make a flat iron out of 20 CV, it's still a pig. Like it's so
I I've yet to actually handle one. Is the edge geometry really that awful?
I resharpened one for a guy and I couldn't believe what factory edge was on it because when you actually put a proper decent edge, like I'm talking between 17 and 20 degree type of hand sharpening, whatever angle, the bevel is awfully steep on that knife. So
Yeah.
it's high. It's high this way, as one of our old reviewers like to call it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Sure. So Ben and Dick Richards both seem to like D2.
And the history of, because I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure it was all
Oh yeah.
war oriented, I believe, in
Yeah.
the outcoming of D2 and the manufacturing of. And don't get me wrong, like I don't want D2 to go anywhere. I like it, but if Benchmade's business model needs to continue the way it is, they need to phase it out
The
eventually.
the problem is, and I'm not gonna say this in a and I don't want the chat to become political over this, so I'm just gonna say that now. But the proliferation of Chinese D2 in particular definitely pushes the market in a specific direction. Look at Civivi. They come out with a shit ton of D2 alongside 9CR18 and what's the other steel they like to use? 14C Sandvik.
Yeah. But I mean, everyone, the saturation is deep. Best Tech and Civivi and QSP and Artisan and
all kinds of different companies are using it. I just picked on CVV because of the market saturation. But it's getting to the point where like D2 can be had for far less dollar reduce than what Benchmade had been selling it for historically, than Spyderco or Kershaw especially. And yes, I get it's a composite blade with Kershaw. You're paying for a little bit of extra fanciness for it, but in a lot of cases at least. But with Benchmade in particular, there's this, at least in the case of D2, you are paying for it. Absolutely. Like the Adamas, the original Adamas in D2, beast of a knife. I still have mine over in the drawer. It's fantastic, but you were paying.
I'm pretty sure Ben's pretty happy with his as well.
Yeah. But there's no question that Benchmade made money, a considerable amount more money using D2 as opposed to something else available at the time, like I don't know, M4, which really would have been tougher for the same application, right? It's a new budget steel. Ben saying in his opinion, it's the new budget steel replacing the crap stainless steels that are out there. Yes, absolutely. There is something to be said for that.
But yes, and replacing the crap stainless steels. But with the evolution of the D2s and the tool steels and whatever, we've also got the evolution of the stainless steels, which are moving those crap stainless steels, the HCRs, the Oz 8s, the whole Oz 6s, the whatever, out of there. But you are now becoming on this turning point of 1428 Sandviks and 154 CMs and stuff like that, becoming the new budget steels for stainless steels. And I'm okay with that too, just as much as I am D2 becoming the budget steel for tool steels.
Yeah.
Bring on 154 CM for $75 and $60 and blah, blah, blah type of thing. You bet. Yeah. And you're already starting to see some of that in, again, Kaiser's Vanguard series and stuff like that. Right. So, yeah.
We still maintain that 154 CM has been one of my favorite steels for a long time, in part due to its ease of how easy it is to strop and repair and resharpen, and the fact that it holds an edge as well as it does at the same time. It's great.
And Brian, yeah, you picked up a nice little Higo blade. It was Kai. And just for some background history there, Kai owns Kershaw and Zero Tolerance, which is who we're talking about with the D2s and the budget steels and the 1428 Sandvik. They actually had a patent with. Huge history with Kershaw. Kai is actually the mother company that owns all of them. So ties it all together. You just got a cool little Japanese traditional Higo. That was, classy little piece. So.
Made by Kai too, huh?
That's the Kai one that we sell. Yeah.
Oh, that little guy. Oh, nice.
In Diddley. Yeah.
Anyway. So it's a whole thing. Time marches on. 440C 440C becomes dog shit because all of a sudden people don't like it. It'll happen to M390. I know it's already it's been around since the 80s, but
the trick is to just inject and mold it into a spider web, and then it's timeless. You see?
Yes. Basically, these steels are not getting worse with time. There's just better stuff available. That's what it comes down to. What I can't wait for is for the overall prices to start reflecting that. That would be nice. But yeah, anyway, I guess that was my whole little thing, was the D2.
All right. And yeah, we can call her a little early tonight. I know Paul wasn't able to join us, so he's probably kind of bummed out about that whole situation. So we don't have to go on and on with only two of us here tonight. We did the quick stovepipe review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we pitched too hard.
I think it was okay. 16 chickens and a bottle of rum, but
nobody talks about that bottle.
Well, you got to marinate the chicken in something. There's 16 of them. You need a whole bottle at least.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't worry, Dick. He didn't get bought by GSM Outdoors. He's still okay.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be back. He's a tenacious bastard.
We can't get him on order for 1 week, but hopefully it's not a Trailmaster in 3V situation. So
Just make us all sad at the end of the night. Why not?
Thanks to the Cutting Edge for employing us, but also giving us funky Spydercos to play with and talk about and bitch at, and yeah. So fondle the fondlings. It's a swinger. Have we mentioned? Come on, like
too many times, probably.
Why do you think Bill the Butcher has an apron? It's not why you think.
Oh,
if you're a real butcher.
that's god awful. Thank you.
Brian, thanks for joining us. I hope you found it entertaining and or educational? Question mark. Yeah. Also, thank you to the few guys, half a dozen guys that are subscribed to Patreon, supporting us. We really enjoy it. We are going to have a big thank you here coming up soon. We're procrastinating on that one, but it's a big thank you to pretty much everyone that is subscribed to us on Patreon right now, right? So, yeah.
I'd like to think it'll be worth the wait.
Hopefully. Also, go over on Instagram, YouTube, like, subscribe, follow, notification, both of those things twice in one. I think Instagram, we got a giveaway coming up soon.
I think so. Normally, Paul's in charge of that information, unfortunately, but yeah.
I think we officially got over the 1,000 of the members on our Instagram because we market it so fantastic that it's taken us this long to get to a G. Anyway, we did cross that threshold and sustained it, I think. So we're going to do a small thank you giveaway over on Instagram. Check us out there. We'll have the rules and or contest deadlines. So
absolutely.
I think that covered everything.
I think so. I think that was about everything that's been going on.
Cool. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. We will be back hopefully with all three of us here next week, Sunday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. I am who I am. I'm Dennis Vipers.
I am the Iron Joe. And Exile.ca is not with us tonight.
No. Boom.
No, you gotta get us taken down.
They flag us for that, I tell you. I didn't even do it in tune. Come on. They're like, nope, we know the idea behind what you tried to hum there.
See you guys next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.